Hello guys, welcome to my channel, and today we are watching a very interesting video from Think School, Donald Trump's shocking impact on India. And guys, please, before watching it, make sure that you subscribe to my backup channel. I'll give you the link in the comment section, because still there are some risks and I don't want to lose you and I hope that you also don't want. So guys, let's go.
Kamala! You're fired! Get out of here! You're fired!
Trump reclaiming the White House.
The winner of the 2024 presidential election.
And look what happened.
Donald Trump officially wins the race for president.
The outcome of this election is not what we wanted.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the greatest capitalist in the history!
Donald Trump will be the 47th president of the United States.
Hi everybody. 4 years after being impeached for his role in a violent attack on Congress, 5 months after being convicted for a felony in New York, and just 3 months after surviving an assassination attempt, Donald Trump is now back at the White House as the President of the United States of America. And let me tell you that while this is big news for America, it is about to shake the markets of India. Now that Donald Trump is in power, he is about to again reverse the policies that Biden reversed in his tenure after Trump's tenure. And if you've seen Think School's case studies, you would know that America is so crucial for the world that they say that if America sneezes, the entire world catches cold. And to understand the impact of Donald Trump on India, we are referring to this Philip Capital report, which talks about how Donald Trump will impact everything in India, from H-1B visas to the Indian IT industry, to defense, to pharma, to auto, to solar, and to even the geopolitical war between Russia and Ukraine. So in this episode today, let's do a fast-track overview on how will Trump's policies affect India, which sectors of India will be positively affected, which sectors of India will be negatively affected, and most importantly, how will it change the position of India in the geopolitics of the 21st century.
Great BGM.
Firstly, let's talk about geopolitics, because Trump is very radical about Russia, China and India.
We're going to have a great relationship, but it's got to be a fair relationship. China was taking advantage of the country. I actually looked at some deals. I'd say nobody could be so stupid to sign a deal that's so one-sided.
Let's start with Russia. Donald Trump has repeatedly promised to end the Russia-Ukraine war. He says he will broker a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine, and he would demilitarize Russian-occupied Ukrainian territories.
If I was president, there would not have been a war with Russia in Ukraine. Zero chance. I would have a peace deal negotiated within 24 hours. True strength. Would have never happened.
So guess what? If this happens, India will face less pressure from the West, and by chance, if Trump lifts the sanctions on Russia, then Russian oil will enter the world economy. Oil prices will go down, wheat prices will go down due to Russia being the biggest supplier of wheat in the world, and several other Russian commodities will bring down the prices due to the increase in supply in the world economy. And this will help us curb inflation in India. And just like Russia, Trump's view on China is also very clear. Donald Trump absolutely hates China. And this hate is about to reignite one of the biggest trade wars in world history, which is the US-China trade war.
The president-elect has promised to slap 60% tariffs on all Chinese imported goods.
China's leaders will likely be bracing for a ratcheting up of the trade war with the US under a second Trump administration.
As it turns out, Donald Trump plans to slap a massive 60% tariff on Chinese imports. On top of that, Trump also wants to snatch China's golden trading status called the most favored nation. And here's where there is a big opportunity for India. Let me explain how. For those who don't know, MFN or most favored nation is a status in trading, which means all countries in the MFN list will get the same treatment when it comes to trade. For example, if China and India both have MFN status with the United States, if the US lowers the tariffs on Chinese steel by 20%, it must also lower the tariffs on Indian steel by 20% to keep it fair. But if a country loses its MFN status, US can and will increase taxes on Chinese goods without increasing it on Indian goods. And this means India has three massive advantages. Number one, India can tap into this huge gap to increase its exports to the US. Secondly, the US-China trade war and China's exclusion from the MFN status will accelerate the relocation of manufacturing plants, assembly lines and supply chains all the way from China to India. And this will help us create jobs in India. And lastly, India will be able to leverage this newfound status to forge deeper economic and diplomatic ties with the Western powers. So, our influence in the world trade will increase. Secondly, the impact that Trump will have on the IT industry of India will be very, very significant. According to this Business Standard article, Indian IT service industry exports 54% of their output to the United States. And now, due to Trump, they could face some serious challenges because of Trump's anti-immigration stance.
I will stop the invasion of criminals coming into our country. Today our cities are flooded with illegal aliens. Americans are being squeezed out of the labor force and their jobs are taken. And it's true. They're destroying the blood of our country. That's what they're doing.
Long story short, Trump wants to make
it was a very strong statement.
Very difficult for foreign students and professionals to get visas to study and work in the US. And the reason is pretty simple. He wants to give those jobs to the US citizens. So all companies like TCS, Wipro and Infosys, they might have to take a hit because they'll have to hire talent in the US and not send Indians. And that will make it very, very costly for them. And it's not something that is happening for the first time. This has happened before as well. Look at this. In 2016, the denial rate for H-1B visa was just 10%. But after Trump took office, by 2018, it peaked to 24%. So with Trump back in office, we might see more rejections for the H-1B visas. And this means three things for India. Number one, less opportunity for Indians in the US unless they're super talented. Number two, great opportunity for India because more Indian engineers will stay back in India. And lastly, if you're an incompetent engineer in India, then life will be very tough because India will have better engineers. If this is very, very clear to you, let's move on to the next sector, which is pharmaceuticals.
Pharmacy.
People, the United States is super duper important for the Indian pharma industry because US literally accounts for 31% of Indian pharma exports. And now, Trump has something that could impact our companies. Trump's stance on pharma is that he wants to reduce the prices of drugs in America. And did you know that Americans are charged twice as compared to other countries for the exact same drug? In fact, patients in the US are forced to spend 5 times more on a common breast cancer medication than patients in other countries. This is primarily said to happen due to lobbying.
Nowadays in Russia we also have, high prices on pharmacy.
Whereby companies come together to purposefully increase the price together so that all companies can increase their margins. And this is causing a big pain for American patients. But now Trump wants to change this. In fact, in his last tenure, Trump capped insulin costs for many senior citizens at just $35 a month. Now, you might think, how is this going to impact the Indian pharma industry? Well, as it turns out, Indian companies primarily survived in the US due to the high cost of the American companies, because of which they could sell generic drugs at low cost. But now, if all companies have to reduce their price, then Indian pharma companies will see their margins reduce. The next sector that will take a hit is the automobile sector. To tell you about it, US is India's biggest market for auto components and it made up 27% of our exports in FY24. But as it turns out, Donald Trump supports fossil fuels and he is not pro EVs.
On day one, I will terminate Crooked Joe's ridiculous electric vehicle mandate. If you want to drive down to the store to buy clothing or if you want to do something locally, it's fine. But these cars don't go very far.
Now I know this is quite surprising because Elon Musk himself endorsed Trump. But nonetheless, Trump is expected to cut subsidies on EVs for both customers and manufacturers. And this will again slow down EV sales in the US that could have a short-term impact on Indian auto component players who export their components to US. One example is Sona BLW, which has an 80% order book dependent on EVs. Secondly, because of Trump's America First policy, he wants to stop manufacturing components in countries like China and Mexico, and he wants to bring back manufacturing into the United States. And this might again hamper our auto export industry. Thirdly, Trump has promised to boost infrastructure spending for transportation. And if this happens, we could see a jump in demand for these Class 8 trucks. And here's where companies like Bharat Forge and RK Forging will benefit, because they provide key parts for heavy-duty trucks to America. At the same time, if the administration follows through on massive infrastructure projects, the demand for steel could surge, which will again benefit Indian companies that export steel to the United States. So in short, for auto, while Trump's strong stance against climate change in EVs may initially hurt EV component suppliers, his trade war with China could really open new doors in the hybrid, heavy truck segments and even IC engine market for India. If this is very, very clear to you, let's come to the solar industry of India. Now, like I already said, Trump can now increase the import tariffs up to 60% or even higher on Chinese goods. And this means Indian components will soon become cheaper in the US market. And this will again benefit companies like Vari Energies, whose 67% revenue is coming from the United States itself. We've made a complete case study on Vari Energies and you must check it out from the link in the description. Moving on, there is one more impact that Trump will have on the Indian market, and that are higher loan rates in India. But the question is, how is that possible? Well, that is because analysts say that if Trump suddenly imposes tariffs on imported goods in the US, it would cause inflation in the US. And to counter this inflation, the Feds might increase their interest rates. And when the Feds in the US increase their interest rates, it means even RBI might not be able to lower its interest rates in India. As in,
RBI is like the Central Bank of India. Correct me please in the comments.
RBI will also start charging higher interest rates to HDFC-like banks, who will then charge more interest rates to customers like you and me. And if the interest rates go up, the loans will get more expensive and the Indian economy will slow down due to less consumption. And again, we've made a detailed case study on these repo rates and their impact on the Indian economy, and you can find the video from the link in the description. So in summary, H-1B visas will get tougher to get, Russia will benefit, oil prices may come down if Russian oil is back in the market, steel companies will benefit due to infra growth, solar companies will benefit due to US-China trade war, auto component exporters will benefit due to infrastructure growth in the US, EV component companies may suffer a setback due to Trump being anti-EV, Indian exporters who can compete with Chinese prices will benefit due to the US-China trade war, Indian pharma companies may see their margins decrease, and lastly, if inflation happens in the US, which leads to interest hikes, it might result into more interest rates here in India, which will eventually increase our loan rates. Eventually, our consumption in the economy will slow down. This is how Trump might affect India in the near future. And I'm attaching the complete report of Phillip Capital in the description so that you can read through all other details that I haven't covered in this episode. And I just hope you learned something valuable from this case study. That's all from my side for today, guys. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button in order to make YouTube Baba happy. And for more such insightful business and political case studies, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, this channel is great.
In the next one.
Well, I want to say that I've learned really a lot from this video. And yes, you know, there is usually both pros and cons, but if there is this tension between China and USA, I mean trade war, then really India can be a great choice for USA to import different products, different things that they need. And India can benefit from it. Its economy will grow rapidly. It's already growing rapidly. And yeah, what else? About war, I'm not sure that he really will stop it. I don't know. Actually, it's really very hard to predict. But I believe that something will change. And just let's see. So guys, please let me know your opinion about all these things in the comments. And if you liked this video, you can subscribe to my channel, follow me on Instagram, and see you soon. Bye bye.